All right, we're rocking and rolling on this Friday here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Sensor Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sensor Green, our partner here on the podcast. We want you to join our podcast as well each and every day. So if you got a business out there, you want to join what we're doing here, and we're growing every single day, you can be like Sensor Green and promote your business. But we are excited about 2025 heading into the new year, and a lot of partners. Randy, good to see you this morning. Man, where do we start? Obviously, the college football playoff is a great place to start, and I mean the SEC. You and I have been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, and now that the dust has settled, Ole Miss looked pretty good last night, but they played a weakened Duke team without a starting quarterback. So, but they did what they had to do. They took care of business. They looked like they wanted to be there. But outside of that, hadn't been very many bright spots for the SEC.
Need to watch what we say leading up to these bowl games next year, because the decisions that we've made to go on the airwaves and cry and tell everybody we're being mistreated because of how hard our schedule is. When you say that, it's got to play out in the games, Brett. The Georgias of the world and the Alabamas of the world that end up playing in a bowl game, and you can say, well, they were distraught because they didn't get in the playoffs. Well, that's not a good enough excuse. I mean, the eye test tells you that Michigan team matched up pretty well with Alabama with a whole bunch. They had more out than Alabama did.
They absolutely did.
Let's don't kid ourselves. So, hey, Lane Kiffin, we said yesterday, for whatever reason, gets his players up for bowl games better than most of our teams in the SEC, unless you're playing for a championship. I mean, Georgia's been bad in the past when they're not playing for championships. Alabama's been bad under Nick Saban when they haven't been in a championship environment. And Lord knows Auburn's been terrible in bowl games for the last decade outside of a couple of them. So Lane Kiffin, I don't know. What do you think, Brett? Why is it that he's able to get Ole Miss up? Because year in and year out, Lane Kiffin and that Ole Miss program is one of the bright spots for the SEC when it comes to the bowl series.
If Lane Kiffin could master not crap in the bed a couple times a year, there's no telling what Ole Miss could be doing right now. They've won 21 games in the last 2 years. They've definitely been a program on the rise. He kind of does it his way, but I mean, I don't know what else you can say, man. The guy outside of I don't know how they lost at home to Kentucky. I mean, he probably doesn't know. The players don't know. Just a bad loss, and it ended up costing them. And who knows what they would have done in the playoffs. But every single year he has his team, like you said, in a situation where he's like, no, this means something. This is a great opportunity. We need to prepare, and we need to go out and win. And that's what he does. And, tip your hat to him. His program, I wish we could say we'd won 10 games back-to-back years. Instead, we've had 4 losing seasons. So we're trying to get over the hump. That's the guy we went after. I want to remind everybody, that was the first choice for John Cohen and this staff at Auburn, this administration. And I think he wanted to come to Auburn, but I think his family, his daughters ended up winning out, and he stayed at Ole Miss, and, the rest is history at that point. But, we got an opportunity in front of us to try to turn things around, and it sits squarely on the back of Hugh Freeze. And he'll either get it done next year or he won't. That's just where we are with it. And the rest of the SEC probably needs to take a look in the mirror too. Alabama, their future is as uncertain as anybody's right now. They didn't win 10 games for the first time, and God knows when. And it was his first year as head coach, and they lost 4 football games, and most of the ones they lost were ugly. And they were in some very close ones with some other teams that could have easily gone the other direction too. So the fan base not bought in at Alabama at all, really. Not anybody I've talked to. So they're in the show me state too. They're waiting to see what Kalen DeBoer and Kalen DeBoer. I don't know how much he wants to be there. And again, this is all speculation for me. But I think if Washington picked up the phone, called, and said, "Hey, you want to come back up here?" I think he may jump on it. It just looks like a fish out of water to me. But we'll see. Jalen Milroe went to the draft yesterday. A lot of people said good riddance. Others are like, well, who are we going to get? I mean, we saw Keelan Russell in the Under Armour All-American game for Alabama yesterday, and, man, he looked like he got injured. I didn't ever see a follow-up report. But, I mean, is that what you're going to do? Is that your plan? Is that, freshman quarterback coming in from Texas? Or is Ty Simpson going to get an opportunity, or is Alabama going to go out in the portal in the second window like Auburn did last year and get Peyton Thorne like they did 2 years ago? But, I mean, Alabama's got some serious questions to answer, just like the rest of us.
Well, when you watch Alabama this year, a lot of their big plays were plays where Jalen Milroe was on the run, making a play with his great athleticism and either a deep throw down the field or using his legs to be productive in the running game, Brett. So you take that dynamic away from this Alabama team, and I don't, really look at their complete system on the offensive side and know what their identity is. I don't know what they want to be. I don't know if they want to be a downhill running team. I don't know if they want to have a quarterback that's versatile, that can do what Jalen Milroe does, or I don't know if they want to do what Penix did at Washington and throw it all over the park. The question is, does everyone have a lot of confidence that Ty Simpson's the one to be able to do that? I wouldn't. I've seen enough of him to say that
this is Hugh Freeze 2.0. He never got in the game this year, except a very select few times. I mean, and when he did, I mean, it was what it was. It was kind of like, okay, now we know why he's not playing. So,
and what we've been saying the last couple of weeks is the SEC has looked really, really strong over the years, winning championships, but it's only been a few teams doing it. Here in year in and year out, you may see a Florida, you may see an Auburn, you may see somebody jump up that you maybe didn't expect to start the season. But for the most part, it's been Alabama and Georgia carrying that banner for the SEC. So if Alabama drops, and I think they're about to, if Alabama drops off even slightly,
well, I think they have dropped off. They're 9-4.
Yeah,
comparable
they're
to where
9
they've been.
They're 9-4, but I'm saying a consistent drop.
Oh,
off.
yeah, right,
and
true.
I see it being a consistent drop off unless things totally change. And if that happens, the SEC is college football playoff, is it a bust? Is SEC not as strong? The question that you have down there at the bottom, the answer is 110% yes if Alabama takes a drop, because the rest of us are mediocre at best right now anyway. I mean, who do you consider outside of mediocre other than a year or two here and there like LSU? I mean, you'll have an LSU Joe Burrow team, but for the most part, LSU's been an 8 or a 9 win team for a long time.
Right.
I mean, Ole Miss is.
Brian Kelly has absolutely underachieved for what he's
Yes,
had.
he has.
Look, he left Notre Dame because he didn't think they had what it took. Well, hell, Notre Dame's won more games in the state of Louisiana that mattered than he has in 3 years, because they just went to the Sugar Bowl and won. And we'll talk about that game here in just a second. But no, everybody across the board in this league, Oklahoma, it looks terrible right now. Brent Venables, I think, may be the number one coach on top of Hugh Freeze that may have a hotter seat.
I think the reason that Ole Miss and Texas are as strong as they are right now is they have the best two offensive minds in college football. You could have an argument that there are a few others that are equal to Lane Kiffin.
No, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it there.
And Hugh Freeze has had his moments. Gus Malzahn back in the day had his moments, but for the most part, they haven't been able to hold on to that success.
He ain't had a moment at Auburn yet.
No, he's not even close to what we're seeing there. So I think, first off, Ole Miss is a program on the up. And Lane Kiffin, I have knocked him over the years, but he deserves all the positive praise that he gets coming out there, because we questioned coming into this year with the Hugh Freeze system of going out in the high school ranks and recruiting as hard as we have in comparison to what Ole Miss is trying to do, which is really work the transfer portal. Which one of those systems is going to work? And I told you before last year that I think we're going to see it. We're going to see which one of those systems. Now, Auburn, as poor as we've been lately, we're now working both of them. We're doing everything that we can to upgrade this roster because my guess is we're not going to coach them up to the level that some of these others are. I may be missing something, but right now, when I watch Auburn offensively, I don't think we're dynamic. I still don't know what our identity is. I haven't known what our identity is for a while. But when I watch Ole Miss, when I watch Texas, I do think that there's some thought process going into each and every week to change up whatever offensive scheme that you have. Do you not see that, Brett? Because I don't watch Texas and go, Lord have mercy, their Bows and Joes are better than all the rest of ours.
They really
I
don't.
don't think that. I do think that their play calling is better than almost everybody out there. I think they take advantage of the skill that they have, especially back at the running back position, maybe better than the rest of us do.
I mean, Nick Saban went and got both of those guys to keep his run going. He knew he had to adapt and change what he was doing offensively. And he goes out and gets both of those guys. He got Steve Sarkisian twice, So, I mean, I think you can argue that those are two of the best, if not the best, offensive minds in the sport right now. And Ole Miss, if they don't lay an egg against Kentucky, or Florida, let's remember that one. Jackson Dart had a horrible fourth quarter.
He did,
and they had time after time after time, chance after chance to win that game. And they didn't do it. So again, you really can't blame anybody but yourself on that. They've got to figure that part out. Lane Kiffin's got to figure out how to not lose two games that are really bad losses for them. But overall, as a program, Ole Miss is going in the right direction. They've been going in the right direction. You may not like Lane Kiffin. You may not like, his tweets and his antics and the things that he does. But when you continuously go out there and back it up, and players buy in, and you get the kind of production he gets out of his offense, everybody else needs to just shut up and sit it out. We can't say anything about them. Not over here right now. Now, when Auburn starts winning football games and they start being consistent contenders again, we can run our mouth. But right now, we're just trying to get back to a point where we're some type of formidable opponent for most teams when we show up. So I want to talk about that Georgia game last night. Look, tip my hat to Marcus Freeman.
Amen.
And that guy can coach. And let me tell you what the biggest victory was. Auburn getting Deuce Knight away from that. Okay.
Thought the same thing, Brett, yesterday.
That's the biggest win for Auburn. Because that guy up there, now, look, I think Notre Dame still has some issues offensively. And again, I'm not blown away by what they do, but their defensive line and the way they play defense is why they are where they are. And if they add a dynamic quarterback to their roster, and I'm not cutting on kid from
Riley Leonard. He's a gamer.
He's a gamer, but he threw he passed for 90 yards yesterday.
Yeah.
But again, I think Notre Dame had 240 something yards of total offense and dominated the football game. So let's look at Georgia for a second. And you were questioning, you still bought into Georgia and thought, man, they're still Georgia and doesn't matter if Gunnar Stockton. Boy, they missed Carson Beck yesterday. And I know Carson Beck hasn't been very good this year at times, but when that little flurry at the end of the first half and the start of the second half, that game was over. You had zero confidence, Gunnar Stockton, and it wasn't all on him, but you could just tell he wasn't ready. There's a reason Carson Beck was starting. And we say that over and over and over. We say that about Peyton Thorne. We say that about Jalen Milroe. I mean, we can go down the list. There's a reason those guys are starting. We all think the guy coming off the bench is the hero. Well, yeah, Gunnar Stockton was able to hang on in the SEC championship game against Texas, and that's what he did. And he was a gamer, and he took a hard shot right at the end and all that good stuff. But when you got to play 4 quarters against a team like Notre Dame, and again, Notre Dame's always been the false bill of goods up until now. They got there and got their doors blown off consistently. They're pretty formidable. They're in the semifinals for a reason. They shut a good Georgia team down, even if it was Gunnar Stockton. So, tip of the hat. The only team left from the SEC is a newcomer, and that's Texas. The first year in the conference, they're carrying the banner for this conference.
Well, a couple of thoughts. First off, Marcus Freeman, what a leader. You put a mic in front of him, man, I want him talking. I was very impressed with his pregame, postgame, the way that he handles himself, how he handles his emotions. He's not too high. He's not too low. I really respect him. And the more that I think that we see him, the more that I think we're going to say in the years to come, because this is Notre Dame. But Notre Dame hasn't been able to play with the big boys. But there's only been a few teams that we consider the big boys. And that's right. Alabama and Georgia and some other teams. But there are not a lot of us that Notre Dame hasn't been able to take advantage of over the years.
Right.
I think they're just on the start of something if they hold on to Marcus Freeman, because I think he'll get the talent level even higher than it is now. Now, another takeaway that I've had in this bowl series season is defense is catching up with the offenses, Brett. Now, you may say, why is that? Quarterback play is not quite up to the standard that we've seen in the past. I don't know why that is. All I know is when I watch Penn State play, I think Penn State can have 230 yards of offense and win the football game. When I watch Notre Dame play, I think Notre Dame can get 250 yards of offense, and as long as their quarterback, which Riley Leonard did yesterday, can convert on third down conversion plays from third and inside 5 yards with his legs. How many times did we see Cam Newton carry us on his back in 2010, converting on third down conversion plays with the quarterback with his legs? And Riley Leonard did it yesterday. I don't know how many he ended up with, but I think he had he
had 80 yards rushing.
At one time, he was 7 of 7 on third down conversions, though, and all of them were using his legs to convert on those plays.
Yeah, 14 carries, 80 yards yesterday for him. But he almost had as many yards rushing as he had passing, but it just shows you. Here's what Notre Dame did, too. They kind of played it safe. Let's be honest.
Yes.
It was 3-3, and then all of a sudden it was 17-3. And so Marcus Freeman's like, unless we give a cheap score away, we can control this game and punt and play field position. So a lot of times we get caught up in the score and the stats, but a lot of times the game dictates how a coach coaches, and it should, because if you feel like you're playing a team that you're going to have to help them score 28 points, they can't do it on their own, then that makes you dial it back a little bit, maybe not take as many chances. And that's what Notre Dame did yesterday.
I'd love to hear a comment out there. I mean, do we feel the defenses are catching up with the offenses? For those of you that are, film study, recruiting type people that love to watch this stuff, what I'm watching is the answer is yes. And we've seen this over the years. You go back to the Wishbone days. If you want to get a good chuckle, go back and watch Auburn play Oklahoma in the early 70s when Oklahoma brought that wishbone out and just ran it down our throats. I mean, you back then in that early part of the late 60s, early 70s, leading all the way into the early part of the 80s, that wishbone attack was as long as you had 2 or 3 great running backs back there with a really versatile offensive line and a quarterback that could keep you honest, you could move the football. But then by the late 80s, early 90s, that system didn't work anymore, and you saw the I offense come back. So, Brett, when I'm watching now, I'm seeing defenses that look like they have a bead on what everyone's trying to do. And I don't question whether the quarterbacks that are playing for Georgia and Notre Dame and Auburn and Alabama are the best quarterbacks in the country. So do I think that they're a major step back from what we've seen in the past? No, but I do think the defenses are catching up. Your thought, do you sense that? Because
maybe a little bit. Maybe some of the upper tier.
I think the defenses are going to rule the day this year. They have so far. Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State, those defenses are formidable. Now, Ohio State gave up a little bit to Oregon in the second half, but Brett,
The
So
game was
far,
over. The game was over at
it
that
was
point.
over,
It's
and
34-0. I mean,
there's almost no offense being played by a lot of these teams. And so I don't know. I'm not a film study guy that sees the differences on what the defenses are throwing at the offenses. If I were a coach, I'd probably be able to see it. But those that are coaches out there, I mean, do you see it? Because I do think defense is going to rule the day this year.
I still think offense is dominant in the sport, and again, you got to score points now to win games. But again, I think the defenses have gotten overshadowed because of the style of play on offense. But at the end of the day, if you can stop the other team, you're going to win. I hate to be so simplistic with that, but that was the old adage. Used
Well,
to be
Michigan, let's
what?
look at Michigan and Alabama real quick. 16-13 game.
Right.
28 spy, Jalen Milroe stayed in the box pretty much the entire time. And Milroe never had a really clear lane unless he made a dynamic play to run
Right.
the football forward. So, and everybody's wanted to spy over the years, but can you defend in the secondary with all these great athletes at receiver and be able to do that? Michigan did it. Hey, they struggled with it last year. But, I think back to like Alabama and Clemson, a national championship game where whichever one had the ball last wins the
Right.
football
Right.
game.
Right.
Do you see that playing out that way this year? Because I don't. I see more of a 24-21 type game in the championship game, maybe even a little bit less because we're seeing it. So I don't know. I mean, it feels like you better be really good on defense, which is hopeful as an Auburn fan, because I think if there's one side of the football that we can lean on, that we're getting a lot better play than we've seen over the years. I think Auburn's got a chance to be really good on the defensive side of the ball in the next couple of years.
No, they're going to be great next year. There's no question in my mind. I mean, this defense returns almost everybody. I know we're missing a few pieces on the defensive line. They're working to try to fill those holes, but for the most part, I mean, this secondary, which got better and better and better, is all going to be back intact, and you're going to add some tremendous players to it. So, no, Auburn's going to play really good defense moving forward. If we can get our offense, and I say this, and you say this, and everybody says it till we're blue in the face. If we can, we just say it on repeat, okay? If we can get our offense going, I mean, no telling what this team can do. All right, the structure of the college football playoff. It's the first year. It has been highly criticized from the time they unveiled where everybody was, from the seedings to who got the buys and why, all this stuff. Well, again, you don't have any data until you get a full year or until you get a full completion of a product. Well, we know the semifinals and the thing's not finished yet, but we do know that all of the teams that got a bye are gone. And if you want to count Clemson, who got the automatic bid, the five teams that either got the bye or the automatic bid are gone. So just like you and Luke talked about the schedules and should they be re-looked at and what the committee considers, maybe the committee needs to reconsider how they seed these teams. And I saw Nick Saban, and he wasn't making an excuse for Oregon, but we all said it. Oregon's the number one team in the country. They were 13-0, and they got rewarded by playing the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. I mean, come on, man. All right, so that was a screw up. Everybody agrees with that. Just like in Major League Baseball, when Major League Baseball implemented the bye for the division winners, every one of them lose, man. That when they take a week off or 2 weeks off and everybody else is playing, they're rusty. I mean, there's no other way to spin it. I mean, I know Georgia didn't have their starting quarterback. I get that. I know that Arizona State just did what the rules said. I know they had a chance to win the game, but they lost. So when you look at data, all of the teams that had the bye or the automatic bid got beat. So does that make them change that? I don't know. Does anybody get a bye moving forward? I'm not sure I want a bye, because when you're in a flow like these teams are for 12, 13 weeks. Why you want to take a couple weeks off? I mean, now you're trying to keep everybody in game shape. And, yeah, you can go through the motions, but it's just like baseball. I mean, you take a week or two off, you got out of your rhythm, and these other teams have kept going. I don't think there's an advantage to the bye. I don't.
Well, it's a good question. I'd say this. I think those of us that critiqued it and threw a lot of shade at the NCAA and the selection committee for who they chose need to take a step back and just shut our mouth. We really do. I think that parity in college football is maybe better today than it's been at the top. You can say, why is that? Well, one answer could be that Nick Saban's gone. That does help. I mean, you and I started the program.
Hey, well, let's look back at this. Not to cut you off, Randy, but we were so quick to criticize Indiana. That don't look like that bad a loss now, does it? No, we were so quick to criticize Arizona State, right? Hell, they came back and took it to overtime, and outside of a crappy targeting call, and now the rule about the field goal. Have you seen that?
No.
The blocked field goal that bounced across the bar that should have counted, that didn't get counted. The thing ended up hitting the crossbar and bouncing over. They didn't get those 3 points.
Well, they had a 4th and 13 too.
That game doesn't go to overtime. Well, my point is, we're quick to say, "Ooh, that was a bad loss." Hey, how about Tennessee? Tennessee didn't. Maybe that wasn't that bad a loss either. I mean, all these teams that we raked over the coals after the first round and said, "Well, that was terrible," which it was at the time. But maybe those teams they were playing were just that much better. And again, that's why you have a playoff. And
I think it's great.
And let me tell you this, Randy. Ohio State's the best team in the playoff right now, right? Well,
yeah, if they lost any of those other 3 teams, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, guess what, though? The old system, they wouldn't even be here.
That's
they
right.
wouldn't even be in it. So you're telling me, I would, as an Auburn fan, wouldn't you have loved to seen what that 2017 team could have done if they'd have gotten the playoff? Wouldn't you have liked to have seen the 04 team make a run? We'll never know. You know, Ohio State could be sitting here saying the same exact thing if it was a 14 playoff. They would not have made it in because they would have had a bad loss to Michigan at the end of the season, which now turns out to not look like that bad a loss because Michigan's showing that they're playing their best football right now. Teams can get better. Teams can get better as the year goes along. They also can get worse. So you're telling me you would have kept a last-second loss at Oregon, Ohio State, and one possession at home to your rival Michigan, team out of the playoffs, not even had a shot. And here they are, probably going to be the favorite to win.
Well, I think it would have been disappointing for Ohio State fans, but it's been the system that we've played under for a long time, which is the reason I'm saying I love this system.
That's why we went to 12. This is exactly why we went to 12.
And I think that the top 5 seeds not getting through and none of them winning a national championship is the best thing that could have happened for the NCAA and this playoff system that we could have ever asked for. Because let's just go back to previous years. Let's just say Alabama and Georgia were the 1 and 2 seeds, and they beat everybody's brains in until they played one another in the national championship. Well, you'd go through and just say, and look, we're the ones that are out there toting this SEC flag. It's the SEC fans that are saying we're better than now,
right,
all the way around. I think
well, they can't say it now.
No, they can't say it, and I think that is the best thing that could have ever happened for a 12-team playoff is to prove that some of these teams that you may think aren't quite up to the standard that you carry here in the SEC really are. And if you give them an opportunity, especially on, let's say you got to travel up north, that didn't work out real well. So, look, I got friends up there, and you do too, Brett. They've been saying it all year. I can't wait for some of you SEC schools to come up north and have to play us at our home venue, and it's 30 degrees outside and the field's semi-frozen. And they were looking forward to that. And you know what? It worked out. And they're taking advantage of it. And when they end up indoors, they're able to win those games too. We saw Notre Dame yesterday. So I think the parity's getting better. I never would have thought that it was going to get better. during this era of transfer portal and NIL. But for whatever reason, especially with the transfer portal that you and I have not like crazy over the last 3 weeks, it has brought some teams back into the fray that would have been long gone. I'm hopeful it brings Auburn back in the fray. Because, buddy,
Lord help.
as bad as we had let things get, if you didn't have the transfer portal to go out there and try to cure some L's, you'd never get back in.
Here's the bottom line, and this is how you should judge your program, especially one like Auburn that spends the money it does and recruits the way it does. If you can't make a 12-team playoff, something else is going wrong. There are other places that you need to look in your program for not getting it done. If you can't make a 12-team playoff with as much money as Auburn throws at it and as well as they've recruited, I don't have any answers. You know what the answer is. We all know what the answer is. Tony said, I think we should do playoffs like FCS. Top 16 teams matched and paired with each other with no first-round bye. Look, again, they're going to analyze this data that they get. They may ask the coaches. They may bring a committee together. Who knows? They may not ask anybody. They may just do it like they've done it this year. But I think they're going to look at that. And if I think that it hurt my team, you can tell Kirby kind of thought it may have hurt. He didn't use it as an excuse. Reporter asked him a question, and he kind of deferred. He said, look, Notre Dame had one of their best defensive linemen out. He said, I'm not going to say he said that's not an advantage for them. So, and again, if you play one more game, that's one more opportunity to get players hurt. So there's 2 or 3 different ways to look at this thing. There's not a perfect situation. If you earned a first-round bye means not necessarily you were one of the better teams in the playoffs. It was because they gave the first-round bye to the conference champions, right? So I wouldn't take Ohio State. I wouldn't take anybody else over Ohio State right now. I wouldn't take anybody over Penn State right now. I mean, you're looking at those teams, they had to play in the first round. So, look, I don't know. They'll analyze it and they'll figure it out. But
I like the 16 teams, but I'd never like to see it go past that. I do think there's a line in the sand where you muddy it down so much that it's not worse.
Well, then you got to figure out what you're going to do with your schedule and stuff at that point.
Well, you do, but you've got to figure that out right now with 12. I mean, I don't see the difference between 12 and 16. I like the 16. It works for some other college teams. It has for quite some time. So I think you can figure that out, and you can have 2 home games if you're a top 4 seed, or if you're the top seed, that you're always going to be the home team. And Lord knows Auburn would like a couple of more home games if we could get it, if we were to, be one of those top seeds. So, and I think anybody out there would, Brett. So I bet that's where it ends up, and I hope that it doesn't go past that, though, because if you get past 16, it's too many.
All right, well, here's some post bowl college football playoff. I know we're not finished. Texas is still in it, but for the SEC, some post season thoughts. Florida got better. They beat the crap out of Tulane. They're riding a high going into spring. Billy Napier may have turned that thing around down there. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country coming back with DJ Lagway. Wouldn't be surprised to see them in the playoff next year. Seriously, I'm calling that right now. I think that we're so quick to jump, and Florida fans were so ready to run Billy Napier out of town, and he stayed the course and righted the ship this year. South Carolina, they kind of sputtered in the bowl game, but definitely going in the right direction with what Shane Beamer's done. Missouri, everybody can say what they want to say about Missouri, but I saw a stat line on everything they've accomplished in the last 3 years. They're way better than us right now. And Missouri, under Eli Drinkwitz, is a formidable opponent. Vanderbilt getting Diego Pavia back for everybody is a problem. I don't care how you spin it. They had one of their better years this year. They ended up beating a good Georgia Tech team in the Birmingham Bowl. That's a better team. LSU, nobody really knows what to expect, but I will say this. They dusted the team we're going to open up the season with. They beat the brakes off Baylor. So I'm talking about some teams that are ending the season on a high note. And those teams right there, they ended their season on a high note, along with Ole Miss. Okay? Arkansas looked pretty darn good without their 2 starting running backs in that game in the Liberty Bowl. They ran Texas Tech, who was 8-4, by the way, right on up out of the stadium. Now, I know they came back and kind of made it, but that game was over going into the second half. So here's the thing about Auburn, and the reason I bring that up. Some of these lower to bottom tier teams aren't lower to bottom tier anymore. And unfortunately, we've taken their place because of how we've performed. So here's the simplistic answer for Auburn going into 2025. You better win some damn football games. That's where we are with this. Tired of talking about how great this is and that and all this kind of stuff. These other teams are outpacing us. And so we have got to win some dang football games, dude. It's put up or shut up time for Auburn. Win 8 or 9 games and get back in the fray. But if Auburn continues down this path of winning 5, 6, 7 games, it's not getting easier. Although we're sitting here saying the SEC is not as strong, but the parity, like you said, in college football is making this thing more difficult to pull away from the rest of the pack. You're not pulling away from anybody anymore. I'm not sure anybody's pulling away from anybody in this league right now.
I think the only way that you would pull away right now is to have the best quarterback and it not even be up for debate.
Well, of course.
But that's always been that way. But this year, the SEC just doesn't happen to have the quarterback that you go, my gosh, he's so much better than anybody else like Joe Burrow.
That's why you better watch Florida. That's why you better watch Florida next year.
Hey, also, you better watch South Carolina. I think South Carolina's got an up-and-coming quarterback that I know Auburn wanted. I know we went after him.
Marcel Reed at Texas A&M.
So, and I said it, though, a couple of weeks ago with Deuce Knight. If we can't develop him, it's our own fault. We did go get someone that can be right there with all of them, if not better.
Absolutely.
So tip your hat to Hugh Freeze and this staff for going in the high school ranks and picking up a guy that anybody's 2 eyes can tell you that if you develop that young man, that he's going to be special. So we'll see if we can. It hasn't been our strong suit over the last 20 years to develop high school quarterbacks. Can we do it? We'll see. Can Jackson Arnold make a big splash? I don't know. I got as many questions about that as I do anybody else. I mean, I'm not watching him and going, there's Cam Ward coming in to Auburn University, and we can just hang our hat on him being the savior for what we're doing. He's got a lot of question marks for the way that he played at Oklahoma. So I don't think that that's a clean answer with it, but I agree with everything you just said, Brett. I can't say it better than you just said it. At a certain point, it's like, I've talked so much that I don't even want to hear myself talk about it anymore. And, my old man's been telling me and you this for the last 3 or 4 weeks. He ain't buying in anymore. We can sell all these transfer portals and NIL deals and newcomers and how great they looked in high school. And the hell, until we end up out there and we've got a really rough road schedule to start the season. That's something that's worthy of saying as we head into next season. And Baylor's not the hardest of the 3. But when you've got 3 of the first 5 games on the road where we're having to go and play, and you're at the point of the program that we're currently in, that's not what you're asking for. It's the reason I went back with you and Luke a couple of weeks ago. If the committee's not going to deem that one of the most important things is your out of conference schedule and your strength of schedule, then please get out of some of these ball games. I don't think it's helping a program like Auburn. Maybe the Baylor game on the road will help a program like Auburn. Do you think it's a good matchup for us to start the season on the road at Baylor, Brett, where we currently are?
No, not where we are currently. No,
that's where we are, though, and it's where we.
Well, I understand that. I'm just saying that here's the other side of that coin. If you're made of anything, if you're going to turn it around, there's a great opportunity to go turn it around. If you're going to be in the talk and want to be in the talk of a team that is trying to get back to where we all expect Auburn to be, you'll go take care of business at Baylor. And look, it is what it is right now. It's the schedule we've got to play. We went out and scheduled the damn thing, so we got to go play it. So, look, if you want to go put La Monroe in place of that, that's fine. But actually go out and can we start with a high note? How nice will it be? Let's flip the coin for a second. How great is this show going to be on as soon as the game is over and our post-game reaction when Auburn goes out to Baylor and wins 35-21? How fun would that be to talk about? And then how fun would it be to go to Norman, Oklahoma and return with Jackson Arnold and go over there and whip their ass? How fun is that going to be? You know, we've all been looking at this thing of how can we navigate our way to 8 wins as easily as possible. You know, and I understand that because our program is in the tank right now with 4 losing seasons. But at some point in time, you got to turn it around. Florida did it this year.
Well, you and I talked, and every other talking head for Auburn felt like the schedule that Auburn had lined up this year with the players they had in place with a returning quarterback, that was the storyline that we tried to set for everyone this year, and it didn't happen. So I think everybody's just braced, Brett.
They are. I understand
We're even more braced than ever as an Auburn fan base on the football side. We're just braced for disappointment. I hate to say that, but that's where we are. And until the program proves that we shouldn't feel that way, then that's the way we're going to feel. And
well,
lucky enough, we're in basketball season, Brett, and we don't have to be braced for anything outside.
I agree.
Bruce Pearl and greatness. So let's count our lucky stars that all of our programs aren't in that same boat that we just talked about.
Well, let me just say this about Missouri football, because since I brought them up, they're 22-6 in their last 28 games. You know, that's not a gimmick. That's not a fluke. I mean, Eli Drinkwitz is – look, now, should we have beaten them? Ain't no doubt. But we didn't do it. And we played terrible. And we had a lead in the fourth quarter, and we should have won because their quarterback was at the hospital.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
That's right. We woulda, coulda, shoulda 5 games this year. And if you
do it a lot of years, and that's because we're not good enough as a program to not play really well and win a ball game. Right?
Here is the thing that I think everybody, including us, can hang our hat on and have hope on. We didn't lose any of those games bad. If anything, we screwed up 3 of them. Okay.
That's the reason you and I bragged so much on the defense. The
Absolutely.
defense kept us in all of them.
So we're not that far away. And I know we've had several people comment and say that. And I agree with them. We aren't that far away. But you've got to get over the hump at some point in time. And it's offensively where we have our problems, which you said a million times. Every coach we've hired in the last decade has been an offensive-minded coach. But our strength's been on defense, and it will be next year. I mean, I hope our offense comes up to meet them at least halfway, because I think if they do, we'll win 8 games easily. I think we'll go 8-4 without batting an eye. And if Alabama is walking backwards and Georgia's taking a step back, which I think they will, because I'm telling you, I didn't see some unreal receiving core out there for Georgia. Carson Beck's hit the road. Is Gunnar Stockton going to be their guy? I don't know. I mean, are they going to start a true freshman? There's all these teams have questions that they've got to answer. Auburn is poised, if they'll get their crap together on offense, to be in a situation where they could go right back to the top of this conference, man.
I think the point that you made, though, that I appreciate more than anything else you've said, though, is that you point out there's 5 or 6 other teams that you feel like are a step ahead of us already. Like they close out.
I just reeled them off.
They close out this season feeling like their program is a step ahead of where we hoped we would be at this point after year 2 of Hugh Freeze. And that's the concerning thing. Does it mean that we can't turn it around next year and bypass all of those programs? Absolutely. We all hope that we do. I mean, we're as much of an Auburn fan as any of you tuning in, but you have to, when you're sitting here like you and I are, call a spade a spade. And a spade is at the end of the season this year. There were 5 or 6 teams that I thought were behind us heading into next year, that are ahead of us.
I don't have to look at Baylor's roster. I don't need to look at it. I don't need to look at the recruiting rankings. They're not close to us. We're going to take a better team over there. And look, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just watched an average LSU team beat the hell out of them in a bowl game. Okay? I was not impressed at all. I made a point to watch a majority of that game. That ain't some good – that Baylor team, I mean, come on, man. You talking about going over there to that raucous environment in Baylor in Waco, Texas? I mean, give me a break. It's the first game of the year. Go over and kick their ass, man, and show that you belong back where you need to belong instead of coming up with some mealy-mouthed excuse of why you can't get it done. And start, look, just can you already imagine if you lose that game at the mentality and the talk? Because like you said, it isn't an easy start. The start of this year was easier than this coming year because you got to go on the road in these places. But just go send a message, man. You've got the talent to do it.
It's the third year. It's put up or shut up.
That's where we are.
Yeah,
that's right. Just like Tony said, this isn't RG3 ain't walking through the door for Baylor. Okay,
agree.
So
I hope he's walking through the door at Auburn. And I hope he's there. He's not going to be allowed to wear number 2, but whatever the hell they put Deuce Knight in, I'm hoping that's the guy. That's where my hopes are.
Well,
I mean,
like
what I've seen from him on film and the way that he carries himself and the athleticism that he plays with and the strong arm that he has, Brett, my gosh, please be the one. Because we deserve the one. It's been a long time since we've been confident with a kid coming in, especially out of high school, that we could count on to take us to the next level.
Justin said Walker White's coming through the door at Baylor. I hope it works out well.
We spun it. We were sitting up here just giddy as two old guys could possibly be giddy with Walker White coming in last year. And now we've turned the page. The reason I'm begging for
Deuce Knight
to actually be the one.
Right.
Jackson Arnold may have an unbelievable career at Auburn, but I'm way more interested to hear how Deuce Knight performs as he heads into the spring than Jackson Arnold.
I think the optimal thing to happen, and again, this is pie in the sky, is Jackson Arnold come in and have a hell of a year and go to the NFL. And then Deuce Knight walk right in and fill in right behind him. Now, again, that's pie in the sky. We know things don't ever just work out like that. Troy said Auburn better take advantage of the negative noise. I agree.
We have taken advantage. We have taken advantage in this state recruiting. We have whooped Alabama in recruiting in the state of Alabama this year. And Alabama can spin it that they don't care. They can act like they don't care. They're getting all these national guys. I don't buy that.
That's trash.
If they're losing on 8 of the top 10 that they offer here in the state,
right,
then you can maybe feel like Kalen DeBoer and whoever the hell you got recruiting for you is going to be able to keep going out there. But man, you're riding the waves of Nick Saban and championships and championship environment after championship environment. It's a lot easier to go on the national scene and win those battles when you can go and say you're going to play for 2 or 3 championships. You come to Alabama for 3 or 4 years. I don't know if they're going to be able to make that pitch, and they don't have Nick Saban to make the pitch too.
Well, Randy,
so I don't think this is a good thing that's going on. It's a great thing for Auburn. It's a great thing for Hugh Freeze. If he can do what you're pleading and begging him to do, I think the groundwork has been laid for Auburn to have a lot of success here in the state of Alabama.
I totally agree. And I think that's the point we're making, is that when they go on the recruiting trail, look, every month that you get away from the Nick Saban era, as fast as you were there and on top of the mountain, is how quick you can get away from it.
Agreed.
And when you walk in these houses of these athletes and these families, and you go, "Hey, well, blah," and you're gonna say, "Man, y'all ain't the same team. You can't fool these kids, man." And they lost 4 football games this year. Ain't no other way to spin it. Now, again, we're sitting over here with 5 wins talking about it, but I'm not talking. We're talking about how do you get it changed. This is how you get it changed. And look, I heard all that talk about, yeah, they're still the number 1, number 2 class in the country. I'll take what we did this year every year, okay? Because guess what's going to happen if Kalen DeBoer does leave? Where are all those West Coast guys going to go? They getting out of
Gone.
here. They're getting
They
the hell
are.
out of here. So I want Highland Home kids. I want Thompson High School kids. I want Oxford High School kids. I want
Auburn High School kids, Central Phoenix City
Benjamin
kids.
Russell kids.
Yep.
I want all of their best players because all of those guys are going to be in the top 15 in this state. And Auburn's always made hay when they get their fair share in this state, and they go over to Georgia and they get several good ones, which they still do and always will do because it's just the way it is. And you go pluck a few good ones out of Mississippi. The best two quarterbacks, I mean, look, last time it worked out when we got Jason Campbell from Taylorsville, and then you go get you a few from Florida. Well, I mean, look, if you've got the best player in the country in Texas or Ohio, and he absolutely wants to come to Auburn, of course you're going to take him. But that's not what we're going out focusing on. But we sure as heck don't need to look up one day and see that we got nobody out of the top 10 like Alabama did this year.
They didn't get Tuberville's last year.
Correct. And you see how that worked out.
I think the stat that you and I gave, and we've been doing this a long time, was 16 recruits that we went head-to-head with in Nick Saban's first year and Tommy Tuberville's last year. Alabama got all 16 and Auburn got 0. Was that the stat? It's always been one I remember.
No, that's what it was.
And the moment that happens here in the state of Alabama, we're dead in the water because we don't have all of that other to sell right now. So I'm as much as we can be negative on where we currently stand, there is no negativity from Brett and myself when it comes to the effort that this coaching staff is giving to get players and upgrade the talent level that we have. I can't say one single negative thing about Hugh Freeze and his staff when it comes to that.
Not at all. Justice said, so the story with Riley Leonard, he agreed to come to Auburn, then got off from Notre Dame, came back to Hugh and AU for more money. Hugh got mad after Riley had already agreed. Okay, look.
Here's get mad all he wants. Here's what I was going to say a little bit earlier. Whatever you have in your mind you need to spend on a quarterback, just double it. Because if you don't get that right, it's over. Right now, where we currently stand, if we don't get the quarterback right, like Deuce Knight, if we lose Deuce Knight to Notre Dame and we go out there and we get, just throw one in there. The next Walker White or Holden Garner or whoever the hell we've signed over the last decade plus, and you go and get that guy and that guy's not the answer, then you've wasted money on them. Yeah. So you may as well spend premium money on someone that you really count on. Now,
we said it last year.
Now you can miss, you can be wrong, but I'd rather be wrong spending my money on someone that can get me to the ceiling rather than someone that's going to keep me slightly above mediocrity. Because until Auburn gets a quarterback that may be one of the best players in the SEC, I don't know that we turn this thing around.
We were the perfect example this year. Everybody knew Cam Ward probably was going to win the damn Heisman, and he almost did at a crappy Miami team. Okay? If you flip him to us, Miami's 5-7, and we're probably 9-3.
Agree.
Okay? Maybe even better because we had a better defense than Miami. And I heard many national pundits say the same exact thing I just said. They all agreed. Auburn had a better team overall. And if Cam Ward would have went to Auburn, they may have made the playoffs. And I think we'd have definitely been knocking on the door because I rattled off 5 games we screwed away. We screwed them away.
So everyone that gets upset when they hear this number of what the quarterbacks are asking for.
Well, why didn't Auburn just do that last year instead of gambling?
It could cost you a lot more. If the coaching staff doesn't hold on, and you end up having buyouts and all of that Auburn's dealt with over the last 20 years by not getting that quarterback position right, then it costs you more on the back end anyway.
Absolutely is what I'm saying. I don't understand why Hugh Freeze rolled the dice and rode this with Peyton Thorne when he knew it was an up in the air deal with him at best. He had to have known that. And then you go out here with everybody wanted Cam Ward. And he had a high interest in Auburn. He wanted to play in the SEC. We'd be having a totally different conversation right now about heading into the offseason. I mean, we would. I mean, we all know that. So I don't know. It's just one of those deals where um, that was one of the most boneheaded, stubborn things that Hugh Freeze has done. And we had a chance to get him, and we didn't get him. And it hurt him more than it did anybody because it made his seat hotter. So anyway, that's for another day. Again, we all know what road is paved for Auburn. And look, I feel good about it. Feel good about our roster. This isn't like we're going into 25 with some broke roster. This is a very talented roster. And Jason Caldwell has been on our show, and he said, look, we can't talk about not having an adequate roster anymore.
It's due to the efforts of Hugh Freeze and his staff.
Absolutely. So now he's got to get the results
give them
on the
benefit for their effort, for the efforts they put in there. We can't ask for more than they're giving us there. Now let's just turn it into wins and be hopeful that one of these two quarterbacks that we have is the answer, because both have the talent level to be the answer, Brett.
Right.
Jackson Arnold's one of the top quarterbacks. I think he is the top quarterback, high school quarterback ranked
ever for
player
Auburn
that we've ever had here at Auburn. And Deuce Knight, there's no part of me that watches him play and thinks he can't be great. I think he can be one of the best we've ever had if we develop him right. So we've got the pieces to be able to do it. And
no doubt about it.
So whereas we were so upset with what we got with effort from Brian Harsin, I totally will swing that in Hugh Freeze's favor, buddy. He is 110% outperformed really anybody that I can think of from a recruiting standpoint that Auburn's ever had. And I hope, with that being said, that we turn that into greatness, because if we do, I think Hugh Freeze can have an amazing run at Auburn. If you can recruit the way that he does and get the right pieces in place and get everyone pulling in the same direction, then but it's going to take some wins in year 3, Brett. You're not going to be able to win just 5 or 6 football games.
All this fan base is trying to do, and they want Hugh Freeze to stay for 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, however long he wants to stay. Just win games for us. Look, we're all behind the recruiting efforts and everything that's going on. You and I talked about it all season. Fans show up. They do the things they're supposed to do. They're always going to show up. Auburn fans are rabid. You said it about Tennessee taking over Ohio State's stadium. Damn, they are just about to explode to celebrate something. And Auburn fans are the same exact way. So we got everything in place to have a top-tier program. Just got to go win the football games now. Quit talking about how we're going to get there. Show up and actually get it done. That's why I'm saying go to Baylor and show that you belong. Because if you start worrying about going to Baylor and losing, I know that's where we are as a program, but if you start worrying about having to get them off your schedule, that tells you a little bit more about what you are really than anything else. So just go win the daggum game and get off to a good start. All right, closing out here again, want to thank Sensagreen for air that's cool and clean. Call them Sensagreen. They're the carrier dealers here in the state of Alabama, so we really appreciate them being part of the program, along with Bunkers down in Auburn. Randy, you and I were there for a meeting yesterday with some friends. Outstanding place to go and take your family, take your friends, rent one of the virtual bays. And it's not just golf. They've got all types of games you can play, but the food is unbelievable there. And the atmosphere is cool. So make sure you check out Bunkers there on West Glen. And now, as the drum roll comes out, got some logos there for Lee Apparel and Sign Source, Randy, so I'll kick it over to you.
Wide open down here in Dadeville. I've actually got a meeting coming up at 10:30 this morning to finalize a deal also over in the Auburn market for a new location that we'll have there. But Lee Apparel, screen printing, embroidery, been in business for 20 plus years. A lot of old Russell employees that really understand the market. So give us a phone call as you head into 2025. We'd love to do contract printing for you. Athletic uniforms, promotional products, a lot of Richardson hats seem to be going out of here right now, and corporate apparel, 256-825-0197. And we are merging with another business over in the Auburn market, bringing them under our umbrella, and we'll be announcing that here in the next couple of weeks with Sign Source. We've got 3 brand new vehicles that we've got out there running up and down the road. You may ask, how far do y'all go? I mean, We're in Georgia. We're 100+ miles away here in the state of Alabama, installing signs that not only are the ones that we're out there directly selling, but some others. So give us a phone call at Sign Source. We do a really great job of designing signage as well as getting them produced for you and installing them out there. 256-825-0197.
Well, that's going to wrap it up here on this Friday. Again, we will have Auburn Blitz coming to you at 12. Andy and Jim will be with you. One final quick comment there from Troy. He said, outstanding point, fellas. It's also going to be about culture. Alabama and Auburn both have about 20 players in the transfer portal. That's a lot. Just get your players in and build your culture. That's it. I mean, look, you have to already understand and know that that's going to be part of what this is now. You're going to have them coming in. You're going to have them coming out. You and I just broke down the list of Auburn players in the portal. Look, some great athletes on there, but it's not anything that we're sitting here going, man, it ain't like we're looking up and saw Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons on that list.
A great point. Great point, or Falk, or some other really good players that we've got on the defensive side of the ball that you don't want to see.
We came out unscathed, man, in my opinion.
I agree. Malik Watkins or some other ones like that you really
just tells you they love the culture down there, man. They love the team.
They do, and look, we can be negative because we try to call a spade, and we're going to keep doing it. I don't care if we upset some of you. It is what it is. It really doesn't bother me. I'm getting too old to really worry about comments.
I think what we said, we're not trying to find things to come on here and talk back. Look, I hope I never have to say another bad word about Auburn athletics ever.
But we try to give, at least a realistic view of where we see the program right now. My gosh, what we're doing recruiting.
Thank you, Troy, by the way.
And putting together a staff that can go out there with Hugh Freeze and recruit. It's perfect. I can't say one single negative thing. And Brett and I love high school football here in the state as much as we love Auburn. And the idea that we go out and we get 8 of the top 10 and 9 of the top 12 from the state of Alabama to commit to Auburn University, I can't tell you anything that I could say that brightens me up more than saying that, Brett. And we're going to be able to cheer for those guys. And we hope that they become great, and Hugh Freeze and his staff doing a tremendous job when it comes to that. We hope we come on here, like we say, with Bruce Pearl. The next negative comment you'll hear coming out of my mouth about Bruce Pearl will be the first in probably 6 or 7 years. Any negative comments that come toward anybody out there about that man and that program right now is just
stupid. You just look like an idiot if you say something like that. So, hey, I do want to say, all of you new subscribers, shoot us a message like Troy did. Justin, thank you for backing that up. And look, we appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel. Again, we try to be real with our talk. We love Auburn here, and we love all the comments and people finding us. We're going to continue to grow this thing. Justin asked, will we give a hat away at 500 subscribers? Because we're right there knocking on the door.
Brett's got hat and T-shirts. He's got all kinds of things. So Brett Pritchard's got them. Just get them to give them away.
Absolutely. So yes, get us over 500, and then we'll give a hat and a T-shirt away to somebody in that first 500. So, all right, Auburn Blitz coming up at noon with Andy and Jim. It's been a great day here on a Friday, and we'll be back with you next week. John said they even love the Bammers. We do. We love everybody that watches, so we want you to be part of it. But everybody have a great weekend. We'll have Saturday Sports Countdown coming up tomorrow, so make sure you'll tune it in right here. We'll draw in the Bammer side there for you, John, on Saturday, and we'll be back on Monday for more Auburn Blitz podcast. Everybody have a great weekend.